Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Adventures with Flowers TV. I'm Kendall Marie Platt. I'm a horticultural therapist and space holder for garden curious women, and I am on a mission to get you off of your phone and into the garden as the antidote to burnout. I'm going to be sharing a bit of a vulnerable one with you today, guys. It's telling me my internet's unstable. That's annoying. Go away. I hope you can still hear me. If you are watching, do say hi in the comments. Hopefully you are able to. Today, I'm going to be sharing the 5 mistakes I made when launching Bloom that you're making in your garden. So I launched my top tier membership option called Bloom in March/April of this year. And I'll be honest, it was an utter flop. And I did some reflecting on it afterwards, and I realized that I had made some of the mistakes that I see my clients making in their gardens before we work together. So I thought I would share them with you here, in case you're making them too and you want to make some changes. So the first mistake I made then was not giving it enough time. Now, I don't mean like spending hours and hours on doing the launch or on doing your garden, because let's be honest, who has got hours and hours? Not me, and almost certainly not you as well. I mean sticking at it for long enough. So keep going, keep taking action, keep talking about. I should have kept talking about Bloom and how good it is. I did that really classic thing of allowing myself like a 2-week window in which to sell it. And then I completely stopped talking about it afterwards. Perhaps you found yourself doing the same thing with your garden. So maybe you've spent like a whole weekend out there, you've absolutely gone it hammer and tongs. And then when you didn't get that immediate like transformation that you see on those gardening shows, you felt really despondent and just thought, oh, sod it. And then you just gave up. That is what I see happening a lot with clients. So I'm going to be really frank here and just say that anything worth having is worth waiting for. And anything truly wonderful does require a little bit of effort from you. Those garden transformation shows almost like click their fingers, but they've got like loads of people there working for days to make that transformation. So I think it's really unrealistic to think that you're just going to be able to do that, in a weekend. So it does, like I say, require some effort from you. This doesn't mean like toiling away for hours and hours every day. 20 minutes in your garden is enough to make that transformation. 20 minutes every day. Okay. It's about that constantly taking action. Oh, hey, Georgina. Nice to see you. One of my mentors, Sarah Dalrymple, really advocates for spending just 30 minutes a day on selling your services, much like I advocate for spending 20 minutes a day in your garden. So perhaps we could both commit to that. Me, like writing emails or creating content to sell my services for 30 minutes a day, and you gardening for 20 minutes. I mean, I already garden for 20 minutes. That's like my thing that I do to stay level. But the thing that I want to learn and get better at is talking about the ways in which I can help you. So perhaps we could hold each other accountable for that. If you are game, pop it in the comments and imagine where we'd be in a month's time. Hey. The second mistake that I made then was avoiding it when it wasn't working. So this is absolutely my pattern, okay? When something doesn't work immediately, I tell myself I can't do it, and then I just hide. I'm not sure if it's like RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is linked to my ADHD, or it's just that I'm terrified that if people like see me failing publicly, then that makes me a terrible person. And I'll be honest, I think this is probably a universal experience. If you identify as a woman and you were raised in the 80s and 90s, I feel like making a mistake. Oh, hello, Mr. B. Where did you go in there? Oh, he's just hiding in that little. Oh, there he goes again. I feel like this is just something that we are not very good at, is failing. Like, we make it very personal. We make it about the fact that we're a bad person if we've tried something and it hasn't worked out. The irony being, of course, that by hiding away, I'm condemning myself to failure, aren't I? Because no one can see me and what I have to offer. And so then they can't buy it, and then I fail. So that's kind of frustrating, isn't it? I think I really need to do something about this. Perhaps you've done this in your garden. You've made a start, and then given up before you've even really got going. I'm going to be really honest here. Gardens are not a one and done. They're not something that you can just transform and then never take any action in again. Plants want to grow at the end of the day. And so if you bury your head in the sand when it comes to your garden, maybe things aren't working out the way that you'd hoped. So you think, right, I'm just going to ignore that. Before long, let's be honest, you'll be looking out on some kind of like Jumanji-esque landscape. You'll be unable to even step foot into the garden because the plants will have grown so much. And that's going to feel utterly overwhelming. So that's why that 20 minutes a day works really well. You can chip away at it a little bit at a time, making small changes here and there, and giving your mind a break as you connect with nature every day. Certainly something that those of us who spend a lot of time on the internet need more and more of. I'm gonna do a really, really vulnerable share here, and I'm going to share something with you that I do whenever I feel uncomfortable about something and I want to avoid that uncomfortable feeling. Now, I really dislike this about myself, given that I'm an expert in this. The thing that I do when I feel something that makes me feel bad or feel uncomfortable and I don't want to deal with it is I reach for my phone. Now, I know I'm not alone in that. I know from speaking to friends, from speaking to colleagues, this is like a universal thing. I don't feel great, reach for the phone, scroll, and to numb my feelings. Our brain tells us that we're going to feel better by doing that. But actually, I don't know about you, but I have never felt better by picking up my phone and scrolling on it. So it's a very toxic habit that I've got myself into. And I am really trying to wean myself off of it because let's face it, I talk about using the garden to feel your feelings all the time because it doesn't work just numbing them and keeping them trapped inside, because that is ultimately what manifests in anxiety, what keeps us feeling really overwhelmed, what ultimately keeps us feeling burnt out is keeping everything inside. So even though I know that I need to move my way through those feelings, that is not my first instinct. My first instinct is to reach for that little bloody box and numb them instead. So I'm committing here publicly, the next time I launch Bloom and I start to feel that like familiar, uncomfortable feeling, because let's face it, things are not just going to go perfectly. Of course they're not. So there are going to be uncomfortable feelings that come up. When things aren't working, when an email hasn't landed in the way I wanted it to, maybe when some content I put out there hasn't, got the reaction that I'd hope. That is going to happen. So the next time I launch Bloom and that happens, I am going to head out into the garden and get my hands in the soil, because ultimately I know that when I give my brain the space by getting out in the garden, instead of filling it and over consuming more information and doom scrolling and putting other people's ideas into my head, when I give my brain the space, my brain then generates a plethora of amazing ideas that will actually help me to turn it around, to help me keep showing up, to help me keep, talking about Bloom and how fantastic it is for midlife women who, just really want to feel held and comforted by Mother Nature. So there we are. That's what I'm going to do next time. So when I do launch Bloom again at the end of May, if you are watching me, make sure you call me out and say, hope you're getting in that garden. The third thing then, I think I'm on 3, aren't I? Is not enjoying it. Okay, so I absolutely adore my business and the services that I've created because each one has been created to help you solve a particular problem in your garden and in your life, because let's face it, they are inextricably linked, in my opinion. But I've got it stuck in my head that selling my services has to be hard. I think it's probably linked to some money stories around like, you can only earn money if it's hard work, that kind of bollocksy narrative. So perhaps you've been telling yourself that gardening is hard or a chore or something that, not something that is to be enjoyed. It has to be difficult. Perhaps that's the narrative you've been telling yourself. So the next time I open the doors to Bloom, which is the end of the month, I promised myself that I'm going to have fun with selling it. Hello, another little bee. Hi. This is a good spot, wasn't it? Right by this little foxglove. I'm going to have really good fun with selling it because, like I said, I adore my business. I adore my services. So I am going to make sure I have fun selling it. I'm going to be talking about all the ways that it helps you to connect with nature on a daily basis, how it helps you to quiet your mind, how it helps you to actually find time in your busy life so that you can unwind with your hands in the soil. Because ultimately, if you're in my world, that's likely something that you would like to do. Someone that has taught me loads actually about having fun with selling is Lucy Werner. I'm going to share something with you at the end of this that she is doing that I think you will find really interesting if you also sell things. But more on that in a bit. I would love for you to reframe how you see gardening. Instead of something that has to be done, how about you view it as something that gets to be fun, enjoyable even? And yes, I'm going to challenge you to say that even weeding can be fun. So even if you don't have loads of plants and flowers growing in your garden, I would imagine that you probably have some weeds growing. So even weeding can be fun. So what I want you to do is set a timer on your phone for 20 minutes and say you're like weeding a particular area of a patio, for example. So there's loads of weeds in the cracks. I've got some of those to deal with myself. Or perhaps you've got like a garden border that you're weeding. Have a little bet with yourself to see how far you think you will manage to get weeded in that 20 minutes. Okay. So have a little bet with yourself. Set your timer going, start weeding. And then when your timer goes off and you've managed more than you thought you would, because I know that brains have a negative bias. So you're probably going to tell yourself that you're not going to get as much done as you actually will end up getting done. So when you manage to do more than you thought you would, you'll get that lovely hit of dopamine, which is one of the things that keeps me coming out into my garden every day, is those little dopamine hits. Because ultimately, we all want to feel little moments of joy throughout our day, don't we? So give that a go and let me know how you get on. The fourth thing then is doing it someone else's way. So over the years, I mean, I've been in business now. This is my 8th year. And I have joined over those 8 years so many programs and courses that tell me like how to launch and how to sell my services. And do you know what? 8 years in, this launch still flopped. Okay. So not a single person joined Bloom. And I only had a handful of chats with interested people, likely due to some of the mistakes that I've already talked about, i.e. hiding away, not talking about it, all of those things. So I could tell myself that, yes, the internet is noisy. People can just Google or chat GPT gardening advice, which of course they absolutely can. Any other excuse that I could come up with. But if I'm really honest with myself, if I was truly speaking about how life-changing my work is regularly, if I was really owning my point of difference, the fact that I'm a vulnerable, imperfect, busy woman and mother, just trying to carve out a bit of time and space for herself to connect with nature so she doesn't feel like she's drowning 24/7, then I would have welcomed those people that identify with that. I would have welcomed them into Bloom, because I truly believe that, along with community and a safe space to land, which Bloom also provides, is what we're all looking for. We're looking for that space to hold us, and that we can have a bit of time for us, have a bit of space for us, have something that is for us. As women, we're so good at giving to others, but we're not so good at claiming things for ourselves. And that is what Bloom really helps you to do. Perhaps you've been doing the same with your garden. Perhaps you've been hunting for planting plans on the internet. Maybe you've gone as far as finding one and even buying the plants that the planting plan suggests, but then struggling to even get them in the ground. You're telling yourself it's because you don't have time to plant them up, but actually what it really is because you don't feel any connection at all to that planting plan. Because let's face it, it's just a generic one that maybe AI spat out at you, or perhaps you've got it from, a book that someone's read. But ultimately, that's from someone else's brain, someone else's, needs and wants and desires have gone into that planting plan, not yours. I'm just going to say here, you ultimately are a beautifully unique human. So it's no wonder that someone else's ideas don't fill you with joy. That it's just, there's just a disconnect there. My work is all about helping you find the space, because I get why you do it, right? You go to AI because you're like, oh, I can't even think about what I want to plant in the garden. It's too overwhelming. I'll just ask the internet to help me. I get it. I do get it. I've been doing that with launches, let's be honest. But my work is all about helping you to find that space so that you can actually connect with the things that you want, things that you dream about, the garden you dream about, the life you dream about, things that you desire, so that you can stop following someone else's script when it comes to your garden and potentially even your life. I think this is my last one. Sorry, my thing's just going a bit slow here. Yeah, this is my last point. Number 5, telling myself I don't know enough, kind of linked, right? So as women growing up in a patriarchal capitalist society with a plethora of information at our fingertips, we are becoming increasingly disconnected from our intuition. That kind of inner knowing that gives you a nudge, or that feeling in your tummy that warns you something bad is about to happen. That is our body's way of keeping us safe. But when you are told constantly that you're wrong, that your opinion is, aren't valid or are disregarded, that you're too sensitive, you actually start to believe those things. And instead of trusting in your mind and body, which have an innate ability to keep you safe and to keep you going after the things that you want, you begin to look outside of yourself for answers. And like outsourcing decisions to the internet, outsourcing decisions to a mentor, outsourcing decisions to a partner. This starts from almost as soon as we're born. Okay. So is it any wonder that now, as midlife women, 40 years on, we are now far more likely to trust a robot than trust ourselves? Scary, huh? I did exactly this when I launched Bloom back in March. I used someone else's launch scripts because the thought of just writing to you felt really overwhelming. I felt like I didn't have the space to formulate the words. And I listened to my inner conditioning that told me I didn't know enough, instead of trusting my inner knowing that actually the only way I can connect with the women that need to hear my message is by speaking my truth and not using someone else's formulae for how to get people to buy. I mean, gross, not my style of selling at all. I want people that join any of my services and that work with me to be a full body yes before they step into it. And you're never going to get that by using launch scripts. It's just not my thing at all. Perhaps you found yourself heading to Claude for gardening advice, or consuming endless YouTube videos of some old white guy telling you how to garden instead of trusting your inner knowing. Now, there's a couple of issues there. And also trusting, I've just got some notes here, or trusting in generations of ancestors to whom growing things was second nature. It's not that many generations ago that literally we had to grow, we had to garden in order to eat. And yet in only a few generations, we've become so disconnected from that. A lot of the gardening advice out there is from, like I said, old white men who have no understanding of what it's like to be a woman, a caregiver, a mother in 2026, and understand the pressures and demands that we are under. So actually watching content from people like that, excuse me, is just really, really unhelpful. It's the connection to your ancestors and their knowledge and the connection to your self-trust and your inner knowing that I want to restore to you. And also to connect you to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature inherently, she just knows. And yet again, because we're spending so much time on screens, we're so disconnected from Mother Nature and being outside that actually, we just completely start distrusting, our inner knowing. So the first step that where we can do this together is in a garden power hour. So firstly, we'll get really, really clear on what you want for your garden and for yourself and your life. And then I will come to your garden, either in person if you are within 30 miles of where I live, just outside Reading, or we can do this online. But mark my words, I will be in my garden, you will be in your garden, and we're going to be taking action. I'm going to be lending you my gardening confidence as we start to take action together and start to transform your space and your relationship with your garden. So we'll start unpicking some of those beliefs around gardening having to be hard, gardening having to be arduous, gardening having to take hours. Okay. You're paying for the convenience, yes, of somebody imparting their gardening knowledge to you, but also that someone is doing it with care, with the care that AI can never give you, with the care that an old white dude can never give you, because he doesn't understand your unique situation and can't get his head around the fact that actually you've got so many other demands on your life. So that's where the impact is felt, because actually I get it, I'm living it too. And with the understanding that taking time for you to garden as a woman and a mother in 2026 is a rebellious act. It shouldn't have to be, but it absolutely is. And it's one that is much needed for our health, for our well-being, for our sanity, let's be completely honest, and for the health of future generations, because our children see how we are behaving, they copy it. Okay. So if we really want to teach our children to garden as a way to care for themselves, then we have to be modeling it for them. I have got 3 dates available in May that I meant to write down. I can't remember what they are, but I will put them in the article that goes along with this video. And I promised, didn't I, that I would mention how she has inspired me over the last few years to put myself out there and truly own my story. And I'm going to be leaning on her advice heavily to have a bit of fun when it comes to selling Bloom when I open it again at the end of May. So if you are also a small business owner and you want to get better at selling your stuff and hyping yourself, I've had some amazing press opportunities in the last year or so. Psychologies magazine, hello. Then she has got an amazing deal on at the minute. So I'm in her hype community, and it keeps me putting myself out there even when I feel like I want to hide away. And so I think you should come and join us as well if you're a small business owner and you want to get yourself out there, get yourself in press, get yourself out there promoting your services. Then do come along. She is doing a 2-for-1 discount with another amazing small business owner who talks all about getting sponsorship for your newsletter, which is very apt, something that I want to do this year. Again, putting that out there and holding myself accountable. Obviously only would ever work with aligned brands and sponsors, because integrity is a huge part of a huge value in my business. But yeah, I would love to partner with brands to sponsor Adventures Flowers TV, women aligned brands who get what it's like, who like to be able to wear nice clothes and garden, all of those things. But yeah, so she has got a great offer on. Lucy and Lex have got a great offer on, which I will share in the article. And I think it's available for maybe only 48 hours. So do not hesitate, my friends. Anyway, it looks like my Substack issue is still there, where people can't comment without having to upgrade, which is very frustrating. But fingers crossed, Substack will sort it soon. Anyway, I am off to go and have Greek salad for my lunch. Have a lovely one. See you later. Bye.